Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me. Paulina here, chatting to you a little bit about this new moon. New moon happening on the 27th of April, so we have a few days there. What can we say, what can we do to make things last us a while? Sometimes what could we have done different in the last few years? In certain instances, in some situations, people have to be very kind, clear and creative to be able to catch up on the time that has passed or that has been lost. And also in certain cases, maybe you're not nervous anymore, but certain things are going on that you didn't expect, or maybe you were not really shown the right way. So this is quite a dangerous time. It is a weird little window. So to do things that are very excitable, to do anything that is very raw or very altruistic would actually be sometimes a waste of time. So I'm sort of also trying to come down and relax. I'm protecting my Patreon channel as well from extension that is too far. So for example, this is the time where you can go too far. It is easy to get injured or to injure another, and it's also very hard eventually to clean things up. So the best idea with this new moon in Taurus is to get through to that part of you that is expecting something else from what you have. Try not to rock the boat. It is a horrible time to try to be too adventurous and too rough with that which is going on. But also there is something very special, very treasured, very iconic about this time. We do have Pluto and Mars at opposition to each other, and we do have a square between Pluto, Mars and the Sun Moon conjunction. So there's a very, very nice secure window in terms of things being just so. It's like, is this what you wanted? Is this what you were planning? Is this how you imagined your life? Or is this what you wanted to have happened? So of course not for everybody, but for some people it is nice to stay mature and stick to plan. There are a lot of people that are not going to go beyond a certain point. They're like, no, I can't go past this point. I will not be able to provide anything past this particular space, or I'm not sure for what I've done what I've done. I'm not sure for what you're doing. So some of the time it is a time of apprehension because there's a vulnerability and there's always a price to pay during Taurus, and there is a question whether you do or do not want to involve. So the question of investment and involvement, be it time, money, or just energy, be it anything, be it effort, be it however long time you spend doing this or that, or however many people are involved, and what is the joy of the situation or the outcome. Of course, this is something that is missing for a lot of people. Just a natural sense of joy, just a natural sense of courage, and a natural naivety will actually bring the best out in some people, and there's not a lot of that in the world. So sometimes people have just been talking, arguing with themselves, trying so very hard. We do have Mercury in the tail of the sun, so Mercury is quite close, but it's in the previous sign of Aries, and he's not getting anywhere. But we do have Fortune next to Mercury also in conjunction, so definitely there are questions you want answered. Mercury is heading well towards Chiron, and Chiron is asking you to do the best you can to make things as professional and as polite as possible. So as we are going through this very divine window that does take courage and security and understanding and maturity and tribalism and significance, we do also understand where things are going to go through. There are going to be several windows and several joys and several ideas coming to fruition or into a state of execution during this time. But yet again, we also have a nervousness and a neediness. And that is something that sometimes Taurus will explain or express with brute force. Sometimes people are very emotional, epic, or decisive during this time. Sometimes they want to see the truth, sometimes they want to see the proof, or there is like a jealous, angry, frustrated, or very judgmental, insecure side that may come through during this time. So the best of all worlds is try to repeat what is right for you. Try to have the courage and the security to go with what is right for your own individual journey. Try to make no choices beyond and above that. So sometimes people are very emotional and they're very intense about what is happening with other people. It is really hard if you're trying to control a spouse or a loved one. It's very, very dangerous also to do that. And also in certain situations, you see a dictatorship or a very big emotional, flamboyant annoyance that sometimes comes to fruition during such a time, simply because people don't have enough security in themselves. So of course the insecure human being would not feel any longer achieved in some ways, and you can really see these people fall. Sometimes you can tell when a person is too needy and they are saying, I'm not wasting time, and sometimes it is for very silly reasons, and sometimes it is for very big true reasons. For example, if your yields are very small from that amount of power that you invest, or for instance you don't have any friends considering how much effort and energy being putting into things, or for instance there could be another thing here, you don't feel blessed around somebody anymore, and these are questions and they're very painful, and snake is a very painful sort of a masterful energy during this year, and it could be very hard, and for some people it is very difficult, but they have to draw the line. Some people have to learn, some people have to master new skills and understand how else to do it. Sometimes it is about algorithms, sometimes it is about just studying and teaching yourself new things, and in certain cases there is just not enough. So sometimes it's like, sorry guys, I can't do this anymore because there's not enough. Sometimes there's not enough people in the classroom. Sometimes there's not enough money in the bank, or sometimes there's not enough patience for how it's going. So this is a very difficult time. We recognize where things are at their very most and also least of importance. And for a certain individuals, it's really hard to actually see things clearly during this window unless they just go down to the bottom truth, and the truth is very secure. For instance, what are you teaching yourself through this process? Are you trying to get something? How is your situation? What is the worth of that which you're doing? How much time have you spent here? Or what do you feel is worth and what's not worth? So it's like, what's the point? There are a lot of people that don't do very well with this question mark. There are a lot of people that don't like the significance of this what's the point feeling. And sometimes this is where you get people masking feelings for a long time that come through, and they don't really feel a lot of joy during times like this. And in certain situations and certain significance, there are human beings that are going to do anything and everything they can to cover their tracks, or to cover up what shame or fear they feel. And in some situations, you just have to release the pressure, calm down a bit, and just sense what is on point. It's a very perfect time for things that are on point. It is just that people have really scrambled and sometimes not very sophisticated with their dream time or with their ambitions or emotions. Sometimes people are very powered or disempowered and they're going the wrong way. So the best idea I have for you is to check in. What is perfect? What is on point for you? What has actually manifested in a very beautiful way? What has been part of your dream time for a long time that has now surfaced? What has been exact? It's really nice to see that come through. Sometimes you can line it up. So for example, I went out for a meal and it was exact. It was exactly what I ordered and it's exactly what I got. For instance, I've made a friend and our conversation was exact. That is the type of person that I want to see in my life. Or for instance, I ordered an Airbnb and it had a beautiful view and it was exactly what I wanted. So maybe things are lining up. There are 7 or 8, 9, 12, I know, 1,000 different things that a person could actually be aware of during this time, and just have a look as to what is and what isn't appropriate. Husk from grain, what has also been with you all along. Maybe it is the love of your mother or grandmother. Maybe it is the love of a friend. Maybe there are several people that have been incredible to you. Maybe things have worked out in a very miraculous way. So try to walk with that which is exact, and that has been also building for a long time. So for example, you have had a bottle of wine dusting away in your attic for several decades, and now it is beautiful and it is incredibly tasty and wise, but this took ages. Maybe it is something that has been passed on from your ancestor. Maybe it is something that you have come to learn about or learn more about in your years. So sometimes it is really stunning also to see the truth of how a few years have progressed. Now is a really nice time to get educated about what was also wrong. It is really nice to see what went wrong. So maybe this could be a computer system, this could be a failing part in the game. This could be a missing cog or missing piece. Now, this is where we really suffer, and I've actually done a little bit of teaching about this on Patreon. Now is a very interesting time to take in what someone else is saying, even though Mercury's behind the sun in the 12th house of Aries. It's very difficult for us to learn new things. It's very hard to consider new people. It's very difficult to orchestrate a life around a failed or a not so well off result. So sometimes what we have to do, what we had to have done, is do a little bit of research. Snake is a perfect time for research. And also sometimes people have done things for religious or spiritual reasons. Have a look if that is actually in cahoots with your day-to-day living human life. Sometimes you may have shortcut yourself or blinded yourself by a religious or emotional reason. And also some of the time people don't actually have to look, but check again. Check your bank statements again. It's easy to have payments come out that you don't even know about. It's also easy to have paid for someone though you didn't have to. It's also very simple to have forgotten something and it ran away, like milk that runs away on the stove. So what we basically are looking for is diligence and perfection and a certain type of style of life, sometimes for certain individuals, that actually makes sense. So we're actually coming back to the roots now again. So after this very flamboyant and very certain and very professional for some people, or very secure Aries, we are going into a very deeply profound and very sometimes repetitive Taurus. But yet again, in all of this, you will find a sense of wisdom and a sense of trust, which we are all kind of looking for. So to move on in the best direction, you have to have some truths. Now, this is a secret. Sometimes it is a message that you receive in your inbox. Sometimes it is a present that you have ordered ages ago. Sometimes it is a word from a colleague or a loved one. So sometimes nature taps you on the shoulder and goes, hey, come on, this way. This is the way that we're going now. So what basically I could have, should have, would have done, like later in life also, I understand this, is sometimes you just need to be very careful and very safe. You need to have a look as to what the rules are, and you have to make it very, very important that you heed to all the details, that you see who everybody is in the story, that you learn about other people, that you don't take any nonsense from anybody as well, so you know what your rights are, and you also know what your nervous system can and cannot handle. So also this is something very important. You need to be very aware of what it takes. So for example, you are making a new step, you're taking a plunge, maybe you're taking a plunge into a certain direction. Make sure that you know what this means for you also later on in life. What kind of karmas could be hiding behind the scenes, and also what is the type of language that you should be using, what is the type of technology that is better to use, and what are the type of safeties, which is what Taurus loves. Safeties and special spaces or special storage or special way that you can do things, so that they are easy, that you're not naive anymore, that you understand as to also what took to get you where you are now and what it may take in a year or two time. So it's very nice for planning. It's very nice for undoubtful and sometimes secretive work. Sometimes things could be better if they are undercover, if you don't tell everybody about who you are and what you're doing. It is nice to see also what your niche is. So for example, you have a niche in a certain industry, or for instance, you are working in a certain type of work or job that has a very specific place in the world or in society. So it's very, very nice to consider everything, consider all facts. Sometimes there is something in the fine print for certain individuals. Sometimes they just things that we don't necessarily have to speak about with other people. It is not about sharing adventures during this part of Taurus. It's just about micro handling things, so people just have to sit down, wait, and also sometimes be lazy with things, because you see results are really gorgeous for some people. There is a sense of fine wine and good treatment. If you are getting, for example, VIP passes, if you are getting special notifications, if you are getting special friends and family members along for the ride, have a look as to what is the secret, beautiful and fun-loving world that you are opening. So there is an opening in the Taurus moon and the new moon. There is a feeling of philosophy change also with this, of course, North Node, South Node situation also. This is very neurotic Neptune walking into Aries and Venus being nearby with Saturn, just in the tail end of Pisces there. So there's definitely a really big question, a big mission. There's sometimes a life-worthy or a long-term worthy dream, or outcome that could be coming through during this time. And for certain individual people, there is a relationship, the bringing of success. There's a secret little silvering. There's a little bit of a silver lining. Now, you don't usually actually notice it till it's time, when you know that you have gotten an invitation from God or invitation from life, or if you are feeling like, yep, okay, this next step is legit, or yep, I'm gonna go to that next little stage. Now, what I've also outlaid in the day-by-day report that I do every week on Patreon is that there is going to be a very nice, simple little silvering during this week ahead. So it's not that you have done the deed and you have to stop, or you have to go, you have to do this or do that. It's not a big, rambunctious thing that we are looking for. It is not a big build. It is not a big house or a giant lifetime change. It is a small, tiny insertion. So it's kind of like a slit in reality, which is how snake travels during this time. And then through this tiny little window comes something new. So for example, you've made a friend online, and through the relationship and the friendship that you are having online, you are actually receiving some pretty good insight or some really good connection, for instance. And this may actually be a start of a really good friendship, or this could be a start of changing your life. For example, there could be another thing, like I've been using ChatGPT, for example, for just recent, like just recent while, and I've noticed that this little slit in reality has been very interesting for me, being a little bit more open-minded in terms of up-and-coming philosophies and technologies, and understanding how also, you know, people are making it these days. So it's like understanding also what is radical right now. Sometimes it is a secret, sometimes it is a parcel, sometimes it is a tiny reminder or something left over from your ancestry or from your previous dreams. Like for example, I by accident have found a photo of me and my mom on Facebook, which I didn't even know existed, and I posted it on Instagram. So that was really amazing. Like just incredibly healing to see that photo. I didn't know that it existed. You know, so a tiny little slit in reality, a tiny little door that feels like something, it is filled with a feeling, may actually not be necessarily right for you, but inside of that is an answer, or maybe from this comes another stage of events. So we are looking for big, bulky and bolshy things sometimes during Taurus, which is the unfortunate thing. And now that's when people are like, I'm worth more than this, I am greater than, like, I am, you know, I am this, I'm that. It's really nice to go small. So for example, if you have a more conservative and a more spaced out way of looking at life, if you have a more certain way of looking at things, if you also are very well backed up, so for example, you are financially sound, you're not looking for money, or for instance, you are well with yourself, you're not trying to get into a relationship, you are too well with yourself, or for instance, you are very well, just very well as a person, so you're not trying to push around and ask everybody else who they are and what they think about you, because you've already gotten yourself together. So this is about the adjusted individual. It is about human common sense, and yeah, for sure, for real, you'll see a lot of people shine that have a natural wisdom and a natural power simply because they've been prepared for a space. For example, a person that has been writing poetry for 7 or 8 years, jumping up on stage and reading a poem during this time is a very interesting surprise. For instance, a person that has been in a modeling industry for, I don't know, 9 or 8 years, you know, suddenly like teaching or coaching about the modeling industry, you know, is because they have backup, you know, they have backup, they have a lot that has been going on before. Also, it is an interesting time for storage and secrets. For example, you have all your files stored away on a secret device, or for instance, you have many friends, or you have a lot of something. So you have something that has already been integrated, and it's a no-brainer. For example, I have a ginormous storage of food in my house. Or for instance, I have such a huge collective of people and I know everybody very closely, you know. So this is something that not a lot of people want to sometimes touch, you know, not many people know how, but there is like a question of what for does that person feel so good during this time. And this is usually because things have been safe, you've been kept well, maybe you have many friends, maybe you have many connection, so you just have a very nice, super amazing way that life has worked out for you. So this could be through your workout routine, this could be through your studies, this could be through where you live in the world, this could be through many, many reasons as to what for things have grown, and also why things feel quantum. Now, this is a really, really hard thing to see, especially for people that are not accustomed to it. If you are patient and if you are wholesome, and you feel very good about who you are and what you have gained so far, and if you feel healthy and shiny and normal about that which is going on in your life, things are going to be amazing, and they're going to only add, and things are going to expand, and things are going to be more flavorful and more beautiful if you actually know yourself. So for example, if you've been drawing or painting for a long time, you know, putting a painting out online is not a big deal. If you have many friends and you've met many people, making more friends is not a big deal. So sometimes that people ask, how does she or he know how to do this? Like, how does that person know? And it's simple, because you've already been prepared, or you've already been somehow mastering things. And here we actually have a very interesting face of snake, and one of the many faces of snake is the master or person who has for maybe the longest time done something that has eventually become a hallmark for them. So for example, here you see a professional, here you see a person that really knows how, here you understand what it actually took for this person to master a certain field or to be great in that which they do. And also definitely for a lot of us, it is nice to gather around and actually hear a human who knows how to speak about a subject, but not everybody knows how to take it. So this is a very touchy time. This is a very touchy time. This is difficult if you don't think that you have learned anything, if you have a feeling that your life was nothing, or if this or that went up in flames, or this didn't fall right, or that didn't fall right. So this is a very sensitive feeling, especially when it comes to having and claiming and getting, and you know, the price is going up, and you know, like the mortgage is going up, like all of this stuff. So it's a very nice and needed time to actually listen to the expert, because we do have Mercury coming close to Chiron. It's a nice time to also understand where things are and where things work. Now, this is a very hard thing for me. And I understand this is really difficult. You got to also like adjust yourself. You have to adjust you if you know that something is not working for you. And it's like, that's it, like it's not working for you. So if you've got a dead end, you don't need to do anything. It's just about knowing, oops, like I've gone too far. And that is sometimes something that we can't really explain. But for instance, you have gotten all these tattoos, and it was really fun in your 20s, like super fun. It was super awesome. But you actually want them off because fashion has changed, and you don't really care for the symbols that you have drawn in your body. But then that's it. And, you know, also getting laser surgery is fine, but, you know, maybe it's expensive, or maybe you are not in the right mind to receive it right now. So this is something that sometimes is happening, has happened to me many times, when you know that through whatever choice making you have previously established, or whatever way that you've previously worked with people, or worked with yourself, or your body or your soul, it makes sense not to be there now. It's like, oh gosh, I need to leave. And sometimes these are very, very harsh decisions, but they could actually be made at the drop of a hat. Like, for example, my husband does not, you know, take care of me, or for instance, I really don't know how I, you know, drop myself down so low to accept like a certain type of style of life, or I really don't know where my innocence is gone. And, you know, sometimes they're very desperate feelings, which Snake will bring up. And sometimes we just need an expert person to chat to. Chat GPT, why not? You know, like it's nice to talk to somebody who actually can hear what you have in mind. It is a kind and very good time to sometimes see an expert, although they will ask for more. They would probably be asking for top dollar during this time, or to see someone who can at least sort of put things together for you. So it is an interesting, unique time to have a look as to what is the permanent issue, like a permanent damage, or permanent damage control, or if there is anything from your story from way back then. You know, although there are many blessings for people that come from a well-brewed long-term development, sometimes it is also a very well-brewed long-term development that could actually be part of the crux of like a faithlessness or depression. So basically what we have come to be is here and now. This is very solid for some people. It's a fixed sign of Taurus that we're talking about. and there is so much happening on the ascendant line between Pisces and Aries. It's very, very hard now to be in a group and not to feel wanted, to feel stuck, to feel like the black sheep, to feel not cared for. It's really, really hard to see neglect in yourself or other people around you. And it is also hard to see if there is a far gone disease, if there is a hard method that you now need to apply to purge that disease from your body, if there is a long-term student debt, for example. So these questions are going to be very hard, and sometimes it is for the uttermost expert to solve. So this is not easy. This is not just about holding hands and wishing for the best. It's not about like kumbaya and having a party at the beach and it's going to all be over soon. It's about a very, very certain experience that you may want to go through, or that you may want to be a part of, just because we also don't want to be confronted here. It's like it's not about confrontation. It's about things having to go a certain way from now on. So like in some cases it is about taking medication. In some cases it is about getting loans and asking people for money. It is about trying to do something different, simply because there are stories and there are sometimes bodily truths, or there are societal, social things or monetary truths that will not be solved anytime soon. So there are questions: does this work? Does this not work? So function is the best way to go. If you have any way of spending this energy, because I'm actually also seeing a lot of people go to excess, like having sweets and chocolate and trying to get whatever they can with the money that they've got, or to do as much as they can with whatever they've got going on. It is maybe actually better to have a look at functionality. Does your body function? Does your home function? Does this job function? Does this relationship function? So it's about functionality, because we are coming up to Uranus. Also Pluto and Mars are directly opposite to each other, and they are at a square to the Sun and Moon conjunction. So did it matter? Did it have to be this way? Sometimes fixing something is very hard during this time. You actually need a really good expert to do it. Of course, expert, which is what Snake here is about, expert. And it is very, very difficult sometimes not to have the tools or the skills, and some of the time we do have to ask if we can go to a school, if we can get a guru or coach or guide, or if we can get a master to help us with our work. Now, what do I think about it? This is not a bad choice. It's not a bad design, but please don't back out. It is better sometimes that you have the skills and the knowledge yourself, rather than resorting to experts. So what else is going on? So it's just a very difficult window for some people. It is hard to squeeze all of that into the window. So for example, you packing very heavy for a light flight, or for instance, you are packing a lot of food into your stomach knowing that your body will not be alkaline if you eat this way. Or for instance, you are trying to put all of it together, you're trying to make it, or you're going for something big, or you're trying to make something really big that can only be small. So it's just about respecting facts, respecting proportions. Sometimes it is respecting you and your body and your natural habitat and how things simply are. And maybe it's the style of life that you have to change in certain situations and cases. That is just about branding, money, psychology. Some of this is definitely about expert enthusiasm in terms of what you will do to make things go the extra mile, and there are definitely experts among us. And in certain situations it's about significance. Now, if you don't really care about the stuff, I get you, but some of the time it may just be needed to have a look as to what is significantly significant and what actually makes sense and what after all will be there for you. So in certain relationships, certain cases, certain situations, it's really difficult to be ostracized, and it's really hard to be not so much where you need to be, and also displacement or any kind of lack of security or illness is really hard for such a wholesome and such a deep window of this Taurus moon, particularly this year. So basically what we would like to do is to get well and to get good at things as they are. Now, the best idea is to be wholesome, stick to what you got, see things as they are, understand facts and the physical givens. Sometimes there are financial givens, sometimes there are educational givens, and you're just working with numbers, working with statistics. You're trying to make it very clear and maybe even hard for yourself not to notice facts. So this is the main thing, not to be also somebody who is unnoticeable, so not to be a pin in a haystack. You'll need to be very, very kind and quiet, and certain things are definitely best in secret. Some new ideas, new jobs, and new silver lining that is coming up during this time is better in secret. So the strategy is a lot stronger for people that can keep their mouth shut and keep their shit together, as they say. But in some cases, you understand that maybe there is a lot more that you want, and some people will try to balance things out by galloping and trying to eat up more than they can. Having a very big appetite or having an intense, insatiable feeling means you are not together. So please be aware of any big brute emotions. Excessive drinking, excessive feelings, excessive emotions, excessive sexuality, anything like that could actually be on the verge of something else. And sometimes we don't want to see the world for what it is, so addiction returns. So be very careful there. And also, it's very, very nice to log off. This is a very interesting moon to make it very clear you're not coming back to the previous format, and that you are not going to be doing that which you were. So that means that in certain situations, for example, if you have trouble with separating from your ex, if you have trouble eating or drinking some substances, if you have a lot that you've learned that you didn't have to, or you went backwards and you went forwards and you did a lot of crazy things, make it very clear that you are not doing that now, and that you have a certain point maybe to make, or you have a certain reality that may be more blessed. Maybe it's a very nice time to understand where you were from and where you are going, and also recognize some facts. It is hard to learn new tricks, it is hard to understand what life is, but it is definitely a very educational time with Uranus being nearby, and maybe it is very hard to feel, but please take some time to notice and to educate yourself, and maybe will yourself out of certain previous constraints, because here we are, and the next sign, of course, is Gemini with Jupiter inside. So we are going in for some healthy, happy, and even ecstatic times. But in certain cases, we definitely needed to notice something, and we needed to do something about it, and also we needed to realize where there are things like growths and emotions and energies working with us that should not be anymore. So this is something that I've talked a lot about on Patreon during Aries time, unfavorable character traits or unfavorable thoughts and patterns. Maybe we could talk about this later on in time, but definitely it's just about cleaning up your life and knowing how to join the dots in a more factual and a more prosperous way. So thank you very much. Enjoy. Have a look at my Patreon, of course, and my website, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.